capture that. So welcome to your second life coaching session for Grantwriting Mastery August cohort. And here we're also sharing our challenges for the week because we observed this a little behind schedule. For the second week, we're meant to be looking at project design and all of that. But the documents, reviewing the documents was the entire class is still at the problem analysis phase, and then we're sharing our challenges to see how we can move forward from here. So Kofi, the floor is yours. Your contributions are really very valuable, and we need to capture that so people who are not in the class can, still go through those insights. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, so I said as I was saying, yeah. So I mean, it looks like everybody is going through same challenges, but solutions are different. Yeah. So uh, so for example, yeah, I was talking to some few people and some few businesses, and it happens to be like right now you cannot really advise, or people cannot always use the same template. I mean, it's like, so for instance, hitherto one area that you tell people that it's safe haven, it's government securities, sort of,
Okay.
right? Yeah, but right now, if I use Ghana, the Ghanaian economy, for example, uh, because of the huge economic downturn and the challenges, the government then had to, go for an IMF bailout.
Okay.
And as part of the IMF bailout, government had to, write off some bad loans. So people's investment have been affected. So now, for example, you can no more tell people that government securities are risk free. I mean, now you can only say, I mean, that's even not the least free, the least free, least risk security, because now, I mean, people give their money to the government and they happen to sort of receive a haircut. I mean, it's common in Ghana now that when you tell people that you need to have a haircut. So, and it's sort of, translated into businesses, because, mostly in the financial world, when something happens, it becomes a domino effect.
Yeah,
Because,
that's a multiplier
I
effect.
mean, yeah, because I mean, for every dollar that you put in the financial market, it sort of triples to become, it creates itself. It's sort of multiply itself. So when you take away that dollar, it means that you take my dollar, which a bank, I gave my dollar to a bank, the bank gave it to Coach Rookie may have given. So the moment we take that dollar from whoever you gave that dollar to, it means that you cannot give back my dollar to me. I cannot also give that back. So mostly that has been the case. So usually now when you work for people, and I mentioned that I also work for a development bank, and
Okay.
now it's like, uh, there's so much challenge. There's no free money, sort of. I mean, you need to work harder, and so now you have to go back to the people whom you have given money to show that they have put in things in place. And especially, I mean, here is a case where, especially in the SME world, people are struggling to sort of come up with innovative ideas to get themselves out of large holes. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and especially, sad enough, a lot of, impact businesses are being affected. And because usually these impact businesses rely on patient funds,
Yeah.
and it's not now your financiers are coming back to you, asking you questions. So somewhere last week, I was away from the capital. I went to one of Ghana's, I mean, another region, the Western region,
Okay.
where we also have other clients and stuff. And it's sometimes disheartening, but then life must go on. And I mean, businesses are struggling, and especially when you've also invested in projects, and sometimes it's stuck. and you are the financier, and you think that most of the commitments that you have had towards people, you cannot really satisfy those commitments, but you want to get them, you want to support and help them to get themselves out of the hole. And now you sit with businesses, associations and stuff, and now you're going to break the bad news that what I've been sent here to talk to you to find new ways of you raising money.
Raising money.
So yeah, so this week I was actually listening to the second section in between, and when you were talking about the sustainability,
Strategy. Yeah.
yeah, and it's so much makes a lot of sense that people need to be trained on these things much more than we think people have been taught, right? Because it's more like uh, everybody has a plan, but how to sustain that plan, it's equally not there. And even with in terms of organizations, and I say this for both profit making and non-profit making, a lot of businesses or organizations do not have a succession plan, which is also boiled down to, the sustainability of whatever project you're doing. Because if the business is unable to survive, I mean, your whole vision and everything does not also survive. Yeah, it's gone. And you realize that most of these things revolve around, superheroes instead of super organizations.
Yeah.
So now you need to speak to people to find out from them, and they realize that reality is sort of catching up on them. And unfortunately too, there's not much money to invest in consulting, because I mean, you don't have it, and you cannot, because of the challenge you have, you cannot grow it organically. So you need to acquire external experts to help you to do that. And unfortunately, there's no budget for that. And so now those are some of the things that I have to work on to sort of bring quite a number of business together. And my organization is trying to, identify these challenges, cluster them under thematical areas, so that, I mean, it will be, we cannot usually also do it business specific, right? So you need to bring quite a number of businesses based on the likelihood of their challenges. Okay. So you bring people together to find out how you can also raise some money within to sort of help. So it's been from one meeting to the other for me. And you know how, and I hate African meetings, man, because it looks like everybody has everybody has a take. I mean, people don't measure whether whatever they have to say would
is relevant,
result would be progressive, but they just want to be heard. So you sit in African meetings like our AU meetings, right? I mean, even the wedding, after everything, the message and the wedding, everybody has to agree to wedding, because I mean, that's when people will just talk a lot. So you sit in one meeting, and you need to meeting that you think that it should possibly take at least a maximum an hour to make decision. By the time you realize, I mean, it's a whole day work. Yeah, it's gone, and it's so draining when you have to.
And these issues that you have raised, about okay, we know that funding is shrinking, and maybe there's no much disposable income to even invest in hiring a consultant or an expert to get things done, especially even in an impact business. This is the reason why I am advocating for the build or capacity enhancement model, because the budget to get a consultant to deliver specific stuff within the organization will be way higher than the leader of the organization building the skill set to do it. So that's why I usually tell my audience, even in the information page for this program, I say, if you look at it, you don't have the budget to hire a grant expert every time you need to make an application. So imagine that I'm charging maybe $400 for one proposal. And you know truthfully that there is no 100% guarantee that even that
Now you're
proposal I
going
have
to,
written will be accepted. Because a lot of factors way beyond the quality of the proposal. It may just be that, oh, the funding is not enough, or there's another community that just needs that investment way more than your community, despite the fact that your project could have done better. But just for one factor that is way outside the quality of the proposal you've written can knock it off. And so even if you pay me $400 to write a proposal, you don't have that 100% guarantee that you will get funded. But when you build the capacity and then you are in charge of your organization's grant fundraising, you're in charge of writing the proposals and application, it's way cheaper than, because if you want to do 5 applications a month, do you have a budget of $2,000 or $1,500 to be paying an expert every time a proposal needs to go out? But if that capacity is built in-house, it reduces the cost over time. It's just the first initial cost of, oh, maybe attending the program and all that. And thereafter, you have control of the number of grant applications you put out, the quality and everything. And so even for small businesses, because I read your analysis and I don't know if you looked back on my comments, I said, fine, you have very strong data, and statistics to back up whatever you're saying, but we also need to bring in strongly the lived experiences of the population you want to serve. You talked about an association of business owners, of women-led businesses, but in that analysis, it didn't come out strongly what these particular associations of women-led businesses were experiencing. It was strongly on the global perspective. So it's as if there's a global issue and they want to do something here. We have to link that global analysis, the global statistics, down to the concrete, practical, on the ground experiences of the population that you serve. And so you find that as for these businesses, most of the issues will revolve around, these capacity gaps. And even from the statistics and the data you brought in, there are a lot of capacity gaps, inability to compete, the lack of financial literacy, business development skill sets, and all of that. And for these small businesses, it will be more cost effective for them to learn the skill, for them to develop the skill set and then drive the process themselves, because they don't have the budget to get a consultant to do it. They can't hire a business development consultant. They cannot hire a digital marketing expert. They just have to learn digital marketing by themselves, learn content marketing, or look at their existing resources. By resource, I mean the existing people in their teams, no matter how small, see their strengths and then enhance those strengths. So if there's someone within the team that is good in communication, both written and verbal communication, it's easy to develop that person as a content creator. So that person will easily learn content marketing, and the results can easily be reflected on customer acquisition, revenue growth, and all of that. So majorly this period, we know there's economic crunch, and then more things are beginning to happen in-house. So is it called vertical integration or so? Many things need to come back in-house, but the problem is bringing these services in-house. Do we have the capacity in-house to deliver on them? And that's why organizations need to begin to build capacity, learn, develop the skills in-house to be able to do that. And then little by little, it will also have a multiplier effect on the economy. So thank you for that contribution and giving us insights on what's happening in Ghana. It's happening everywhere. It's not just on the African continent. It's global. I mean, here in the UK, if train companies are not striking, train workers are not striking, we have lecturers going on strike, we have nurses going on strike. Throughout last term, a considerable number of days, my children were at home because teachers were going on strike on specific days, though they will write a letter to us to tell us that on this number of days for this month we'll be on strike. So it's a global crisis. It's not peculiar to Ghana, it's not peculiar to Nigeria. And I know I'm veering a little bit off grant writing, but it's something I know that it's very, very relevant. And it's also connected to grant writing because of the sustainability strategy that you will always discuss in an application, in a funding application. And so we need to begin to develop more revenue channels for our organizations. Okay, you need to begin to look beyond. I know most times when organizations start up, you start with personal funding and then maybe board donations. But there are over, I think there are about 10 revenue channels, revenue sources that you can explore. It's one of the things I'm looking at for my research, my master's dissertation. I shared in the academy my questionnaire. I will also share it to the classroom. You guys should help me get that data. Questionnaire to see, okay, strategic planning and then the impact on financial sustainability of nonprofits. And then I itemized about 8 to 9 revenue channels that nonprofits can explore. And then when I'm looking at the back end of the data, at least about 18 to 20 people have responded. I'm seeing that there are some viable revenue channels that people are not looking at, like CSR partnerships. People are not looking at those channels, paid services. And I know the issue of paid services and merchandising is because of the mindset that nonprofit founders have, thinking that because it's a nonprofit organization, then you cannot generate revenue. You have to rely on donations, on grants, on supporters, and all of that. But that's not true. As a nonprofit organization, you're actually a business. And some of you that have been following me for a while, you know that I've said it over and over again, that it's just in the legal structure between you and a business, in the sense that there are no shareholders, that at the end of the fiscal year, then shareholders are saying, okay, we are declaring a $20,000 profit and then we're sharing profits. For a nonprofit organization, there's nothing like that. All the revenue that is generated, either from services, from donations, from grants, from sponsorship, is used to deliver the services and the programs to the target population and handle operational costs. Any surplus goes back into programs. You cannot take it out to say, oh, as the founder, because we have a surplus of $10,000, then we're giving $5,000 to the founder. That's not done. So the fact that it's a non-profit does not mean that it's non-revenue generating. So you actually need to generate revenue. And that is why the grant application form, the funder is asking you, what is your sustainability plan at the end of this funding? How will this program continue? Kofi, your hand is up.
Yeah, Coach Shuki, I just find interesting about what you're saying, how relevant it is, and I mean, so it's basically that when you mention that in terms of non-profits organization, the need to have that mind shift towards social enterprising, that you that will help you to be able to find different other ways to raise capital or to raise funds, right? And I did a similar work whilst back. I was in the UK, but I did it on Ghana setting, and mine was just looking at startups and small businesses. But I mean, capital raising and or fundraising, either ways where you find it. So I, as part of a project consulting that I also did with some British business that was looking out for what's the name, people, refugees that are trying to establish in Coventry, where I was living. Okay. One other areas that we're looking out for, just as you mentioned, was the merchandising, trying to the little money that they raise in terms of how sustainable they can use it, then we shift them from an NGO to
The
a
social
pure NGO to a social enterprise,
model,
whereby they introduce like a backpack for universities. I mean, Coventry and Warwick is one area that are full of students. So we introduced that and changed the name to like the People's Backpack. I mean, so the revenue that they were generating from that, went into supporting whatever program that they wanted to do. That's one thing. And we also, establish partnership with them with cancer research. I mean, use the stores, the chains of cancer research to sell their products. So they went into revenue sharing. So for every dollar that they share, I mean, for every dollar cost was coming in with, I think, for every pound cost was coming with £1.50. And that was the excess, that was the revenue. So so it became like for every pound, there was a 50-50 on the revenue of
revenue sharing.
Yeah. So so most of the NGOs, I mean, most of the UK NGOs that really had outlets, like, as I said, cancer research and the other areas, we put
there are very big non-profits that have outlets, like the British Heart Foundation.
Yeah. So the British
Heart British Heart Foundation, is it Salvation Army?
Yeah.
When I just came in last year and I was looking for furniture. So when you just, people are like, oh, check out charity stores. And they're not even that cheap. So
no, they are not cheap.
When I went to British Health, I want you guys to pay attention to this conversation, because you are going to discuss your sustainability plan. You're going to discuss it now. Even with this economic crunch, even the donors now, their eye they tear. So you have to just bring out very strong arguments for your project. There's no room for mediocrely designed project. The project, your analysis has to be strong. Your project has to be very clear, and you need to have a clear sustainability plan that beyond this grant, this is how we're going to sustain this project. Or these are the other funding sources that we are exploring to continue to drive these programs. They don't want to have that impression that, oh, this good work, this good project is going to die when their funding ends. And so looking at, the UK or the US, it's a very different culture. It's a very different culture. And then there are some models here that we can begin to adapt to our culture back in Africa, and start to cultivate those ideas, cultivate those revenue streams. And when I got here, everybody was saying, go to a charity store to buy your furniture. And when I visited the British Heart Foundation, they had very beautiful furniture. These are pieces that people donate to them. So instead of throwing away furniture and all of that, people donate this furniture. They go use their pickup vans to pick up furniture. Like, I'm planning to move, and I bought furniture from a community charity store. I'm planning to call them to come and clear out all the furniture. I'm donating it back to them. Furniture I bought almost £500. All of the stuff we bought from their bed frames and all of that. I'm going to donate them back, and then they would look at it, do some finishing touches and resell to generate money for the causes that they run under the organization. British Heart Foundation does the same thing. They have furniture, they have computers, these are the stuffs donated. Even other shops, there are some products, after a while, when it has stayed too long in the shop, they want to clear them off, or they sell them at very limited, discounted prices. They donate them to the British Heart Foundation. British Heart Foundation sells, and then the revenue is used to finance their projects, supporting people with heart issues. So this is something we need to begin to look at, to see how can we adopt these models as additional revenue channels, revenue sources for the programs we're running in our organization. You are asking for grants, but the funder wants to know, what is your plan beyond grant? Is this organized? So when they ask for your bank statements, they ask for audited financial reports, they are trying to assess the financial viability or stability of the organization, to see what are the revenue channels. And then if one channel fails, do they have other channels that can continue programs, that can stabilize programs without this organization going under? And so they want to see that you have stuff like donations coming in from the board members or to trustees. They want to see that you're utilizing digital fundraising, like you're building an online community of people who are supporting your cause, and they can give $1, £1, $10, £5, 5,000 naira, 100 CDs, 500 rands, 50 rands to support your program. And then you're also considering services. For some of you who have developed strong capacities over the years, either through your job, because beyond the nonprofit organization you run, maybe you have a career that you have, grown over time. And then throughout your career, you have built certain skills. You have built certain capabilities that you can monetize. And I will use myself for example. Sometimes people ask me, why don't you have a nonprofit organization? I said, that is not my focus for now. I'm using the best possible platform to reach as much organizations that I can with my skill set, while also generating or increasing my personal income. So I serve a sector like, the NGO sector, especially in Africa, is heavily driven on charity. It's not like, countries like Canada, New Zealand, and the rest that non-profits really understand that they have to invest in consultants, in training, in this and that. In Africa, it's heavily driven on charity. And if I can monetize my skill set in that sector, and then anybody in any other sector can monetize their skills to generate revenue. So I have someone that we did a program together in Lagos Business School. We did a nonprofit leadership and management program together. That was in 2021. And one of the things she's doing right now, she runs a nonprofit. The nonprofit is focused on providing water in really vulnerable communities, and then also empowerment for women and young people. And then she has a lot of coaching programs, training programs like this, where she teaches young Africans how to apply for fellowships. So her own focus, how they can, because she has won a lot of fellowships, a lot of scholarships, and she's currently doing her PhD. So she's teaching young Africans how to, leverage on these fellowship opportunities, how to leverage on scholarship opportunities, put their documents together to win scholarships. And then the revenue, she's using a part of the revenue from these trainings, consulting services to fund her foundation, especially paying overhead costs. So when she's putting up her proposal, if they're applying for any grants, her sustainability strategy is very strong, because they can see from the bank statements and the audited accounts the volume of revenue coming into the organization every month, every year, through the training channels, consultations. She sells books. She's written a lot of books that she's selling, ebooks, selling online courses before the live training and mentorship. And this money takes care of salaries and operational costs. And then funders have the confidence to say that, yes, this organization, they have very strong sustainability strategy, and they also give them money. So we know this, is it an idiom or something that will, when someone that you have given much to, you give much more to them. I don't know if I'm paraphrasing it correctly, but it's just that if we look at the world generally, it seems that people who have more receive so much more. Companies who have more business receive so much more opportunities already, and you're wondering, how about those that are just starting? So it's left for you to begin to build, the skills that you need to develop these channels within your organization. And as you grow, more opportunities will come. That's what I have observed in the nonprofit sector. Organizations that have gotten grants, we always get more grants. We'll get much more grants as the year go by. So the most difficult one is the first grant. And that's why you all are here, to learn, okay, what are the strategies that you can use to develop proposals that are high quality and then can get you funded. you see the sustainability section of your proposal. This is what you're going to be working on in week 3. I just hope that you're able to clean out the problem analysis section. You are able to finish up on your project activities, objectives, then the project design and methods, and then work on monitoring, evaluation, and the sustainability strategy. Because now that we have recession coming in, funders are more critical. They will put up more challenging guidelines and eligibility criteria, templates. Some of you got my emails. So there's so much more demand for accountability, demand for, from your end, what you need to do to justify why you should be giving money. And so I want to appeal to you all to find the time, sit down and work on your proposal. It's not something you should gloss over because you're going to make very, very serious mistakes, because you're going to submit this proposal. It's not something you do and then you just keep in your shelf or something. At the end of the 5 weeks, there are no extensions, like I was saying before. We're not going to extend it. It's ending by September 2nd. I'm not doing any reviews after September 2nd. And then after that, you're going to find an opportunity and apply for that. It's not just coming to learn proposal writing and you keep it somewhere. You have to engage in the process. You have to submit your applications so that you can begin to access funding. And I want to encourage you all to do that, because nobody will give you 5 weeks timeline to submit a grant. You have between 2 to 3 weeks maximum, some days. And your normal schedule, your day-to-day activities are not getting easier. It's just the reality of life that we have to deal with. You need to build it into it. That fine, you're giving your organization a target of 2-3 proposals every single month. That's the only way the money is going to come in. So I've been talking a lot for a while. I want us all to share. We've heard from Kofi. Fumi has shared quite a bit before, and then we have 3 others here that haven't shared. So I want you all to share your experience engaging with the problem analysis training, and then the 2 training videos for the week on project design. What did you learn? Are there challenges you have? And then also in implementing, in writing the part of the proposal, what challenges did you experience, or what lessons have you learned? And so I would start from Fumzile, and then we'll take after Fumzile, Olamide, and Super Parents Foundation. Can you help? Just type in your first name in the chat area. It can be Colleagues Super Parents Foundation. Just type in your first name in there. So I hope I'm not mixing things up. Okay, so Fumzile, the floor is yours.
Okay, good evening, Coach, and good evening to the rest of the team members.
Yeah.
For me, I think I'm a bit on a back foot because after our session, obviously, you challenged me to go back to the drawing board to decide which of the pillars am I going to focus on for this exercise. Okay. So I ended up shifting towards the entrepreneurship development program that we run for cooperatives and youth, unemployed youth and women in the rural areas, because I thought it's broad and it's gonna push me to go deeper into detail. So then this week I was engaging with that with the problem, identifying the problem and problem analysis. I think that's where I'm at. So to the point that it's only Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday where I'm actually gonna do an actual research, where I'm going to the community, because I realized I've been in the community for 3 years, and these development workshops have been based on my own assumptions of their problems. Obviously, it's a generic thing. Unemployment. I see issues of crime in every rural area and township in South Africa. So you're like, oh, okay, this is what they need. But I had really never engaged in terms of meeting them and asking them over and above my observation, So that's the activity that I'm gonna engage in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm literally driving there for the 3 days to spend time and talk also with the local leadership. Like, one of the issues that I really didn't think was an issue was access to land. You know, with us in KZN, there's a whole thing about if there are projects that are women or youth-led, will make land available. You know, it's like a campaign statement, but on the ground, that's not a reality.
Doesn't happen.
You go there, you find that the chiefs now, who are the custodians of the particular community or land, they now are saying co-ops must pay like 10,000 rands, 50,000 rands to secure a certain number of hectares of land and whatever. Or they say, fine, we'll give you the land, but when you start making profits, we want you to pay us an X amount. You know, like, but this is the king's land. In the discussions on the table have been that it's available for viable projects that are going to give back economically to the communities. So for me, I wasn't aware of that. So I was going to come and train people and expect them to get
go
the
to
land.
The land,
you know?
And then
Yes, so because my assumption was the only area they need is skills, it's upskilling and getting skilled and whatever. And there are other issues on the ground that will probably give us problems in terms of being able to measure the impact of what we're doing, because eventually after we've trained them, they need to go and implement. They need space to actually do that. And, you know, so I think for me, the problem analysis part, it knocked some sense. It knocked some sense to me.
It's a moment of truth.
Yes, I started asking myself questions, and I think also your second review of my submission, again, it went on, I see your data analysis, I see whatever, but what is going on
the ground?
Then, yes, so, and then obviously the whole day today, I decided to go back and listen to the recording, like the teaching on problem analysis and all of that. And I realized, I was glossing over this thing. I was just not going to make it, should it been that this is the proposal I'm submitting, because it's neither here nor there. It's not really speaking about tangible facts. It's global issues, it's national issues, but specifically for these
local issues. So they have to be that balance. Okay, you were not here when I was talking about Kofi's analysis. So there needs to be that harmony and balance. If you remember in the training, I said this data is to back up or validate and substantiate the experiences of people in the community. And so if your proposal does not reflect on the ground experiences, the stories of the people that you're working with, is not going to fly. It's not going to fly. So if you're just talking about global statistics, national statistics, and then there's no element of this specific population in a specific location where you want to work, what are the local issues, what are the contextual issues in that analysis, and then you use the statistics to support it, it wouldn't work. And then just imagine that you have written a proposal and submitted to a funder about an enterprise development program in your community. And then the people reviewing the proposal actually know about the barriers with access to land. The proposal is going to be laughable because you're not. So when you train them, what's going to happen? We're going to spend $20,000 or $50,000 to do capacity building programs and give them startup kits. And then there's no land to start their enterprise. It's a wasted effort, it's a wasted resource. And so they'll just throw the proposal away, because whoever is going to review your proposal would have some knowledge about some local issues where you want to work. They can actually do that research and understand, okay, these are, they have some expectations to say these issues are supposed to show in your analysis. And then if it doesn't show, it's a no-no. So you need to actually settle down. I'm happy that you said you're going to the community to go and really have conversations with these people and really understand the barriers. It was the same thing for me when I was designing the program. Like I mentioned earlier, when I was talking to Fumi from Save a Child, Save a Nation Foundation. There are some things that I've realized that is really very essential that I have to add to the component, and then it's actually going to be an expanded program, which is going to affect the sign-up fee significantly. So beyond the training, at first when I newly started, it was just 2 days training. And I wasn't seeing the result because I had the metrics I wanted to see. People were not still able to submit proposals before we created Grantwriting Mastery and design it in a way that we had training sessions and then we had work sessions to see what people were designing to provide the support. And then we started seeing from the inception, the first launch, we saw $30,000 in funding for 2 projects. So it is the same thing in the field. When you address the local issues, when you bring them into the proposal, it actually enhances your chances of being selected and also successful implementation of the project. So I'm looking forward to seeing, the findings you're going to gather from your field work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm happy you're taking that journey, but be particular about your documentation. Ensure that you're gathering the notes. If there are interviews, you're doing it properly. If you want to do a survey, if you are going to talk to a larger population, ensure that you're able to do, if there's somewhere that there's internet access, you can use Google Forms to capture the data, and so that you can know the proportion of perceptions amongst the population. For instance, you can know if you talk to 30 young people, and then out of the 30 young people, maybe 70% of them are talking about access to land, then you would know it's an issue. It's an issue that needs to be addressed. Then you can bring that component into your project design. Or maybe 70% of them are talking about that they have never attended a business training before. They don't know how to start up a business. They don't know about marketing and all of that. That is what feeds into the kind of activities that you're going to run in the project you're going to propose, and what the project objective should even be. So you can't sit in your office and assume that this is what they need because you have a degree in sustainable development. You have to go and understand the local issues. Your degree, your knowledge is just to help you understand more underlying issues that maybe they are not able to voice out or articulate properly. But your expertise, because you're an expert, when they talk about 1 or 2 issues, you can do those connections to know the broader picture of what's going on in the community. So I'm looking forward to seeing that analysis coming up. And there's a message, Kofi is sharing something with you. He said he's open to share some about fundraising, capital raising, and startup funding when you start your project. Thank you for that, Kofi. So Kofi is ready to help share ideas with you on how you can still build the capacity of these young people to raise capital for their projects. All right, thank you for sharing that. And so we'll go to Olamide. After Olamide, we'll take the second Fumi from Super Parents Foundation. Olamide, the floor is yours. Charles, are you here? Can you hear me? All right, so Fumi from Super Parents Foundation, let's hear you, how you've been engaging with the content and then with implementation.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, so this is my first time attending the live class.
Yeah.
Yes, just a message in the group about how that not been able to engage with the activity. But I'll try to send in something tomorrow.
Okay.
I work with Super Parents Foundation, and now we do a whole lot in the organization. We focus on children living with disabilities, vulnerable children, and the families of these children living with disabilities, and reading. So majorly what we do in our organization is to cater for their well-being. We have a strong hold on the health aspect because a whole lot is in need for these students to achieve their milestones. So the major problem we've been facing so far is how that many private organizations that have CSR programs are not willing to pick up or work with us or fund many of our projects. Many of them say things about how that these milestones these children have to achieve take a whole lot of time, and they don't see it as something they want to venture into. Where we keep on saying about how that we keep on saying about how that milestones achieved by these children is a whole lot worth celebrating. As little as
Okay, so Fumi, I don't
yes,
know
ma'am.
I don't know if it's your microphone, the device, but it's not really audible. I'm straining to try to pick. What are you using, a headphone, an earpiece? Are you using an earpiece or just your phone directly, your device? Hello, Fumi, can you hear me? So we can't really hear you. So can you adjust, if you're using a headphone, an earpiece, can you adjust it so we can hear you more audibly? All right, so I think she'll sign back in. Olamide in a noisy place at the moment, and then you come up immediately after Fumi. Okay. So if that's fine. So before Fumi comes back in, or Olamide, I'll just share my findings or my observation from the reviews that I've conducted this week, which is very few, by the way. So for few of you, okay, before I go ahead, Fumi from Save the Child, you can share your comments, share your thoughts before I go ahead with talking about the observation from the reviews and then how we should approach writing for the third week.
Okay, thank you. So it's not really a comment, it's a question. So it seems like most of my teammates, they're like working in like localized places, but like my program is like for GSS. Okay, like one of them is mainly GSS3 students, you know. So I'm like, I don't know how to localize it as such, you know, because GSS3 students are like all over, you know. Though I understand that they could have different problems as well, because the community I went to, I was there last year and we went this year as well. So this year I actually made a point to go and take data beforehand, because usually I would give them papers and ask them to fill out, but then we don't get, like, the data is not so clean as such,
Yeah.
you know. So this time we then decided, we went like a few weeks before then, and then we took like Google Forms to take data as well. So I wanted to like have an idea of how those students, like, just have like a general overview, or the students themselves, like, do they live with their parents? What are their parents doing, you know, just so that I have an idea of how maybe what's maybe how their parents influence them, how their environment influences them, things like that. Yes. So even I got access to the school because I partnered with there's an organization called Teach for Nigeria, and so they had some fellows there, and so I got in touch with them and I was able to have to do the program. So like one of the fellows then said, look, that he said in his view that it was a good program because it would help he felt that it would help mitigate dropout rates, that because a lot of kids after GS3, they drop out of secondary school, you know, and meanwhile, Lagos State would like them to stay in school. And so when you said to do some more research, I actually did try to look for some things. And I realized that even Lagos State government, they 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 also recognize that students drop out a lot after GSS3. And so what they're now trying to do is comprehensive schools. So in the comprehensive schools, they will take cognizance of those who are interested in the academic path, and then those who are interested in vocational. Yes. But it's relatively new, so they haven't graduated any children yet. But I think they've started it with a few schools to see how I guess eventually they will then make it go round Lagos State. But yeah, so that's just the thing. So but how many communities would I be able to go to do this kind of research if I'm trying to like reach as many GS3s as possible?
Possible. Okay. So where do you stay specifically in Lagos?
So I stay in Ifako local government.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you know the number of public
was
schools?
Ojo.
You went to Ojo. Okay. Do you know the number of public schools within your vicinity, within the LGA where you stay?
I actually have that data somewhere.
Have you visited? Okay, beyond the data, have you visited the public schools in your locality?
Yeah. So when I started from the beginning, I visited the public schools in fact very close to me. That's actually part of the things that informed my work right from the beginning. My problem was that getting access to the kids to even do any project with them was a problem, because going to the districts, you know, the schools, when you go to the schools, the counselor, I remember the first time I ever went to one of the schools, the counselor told me that she would, you know, she liked the idea of the program, but then she said I would have to get
you need to get an approval. Yes.
And I went, and as in the bureaucracy is crazy.
You have to continue till you get the approval.
I didn't go back.
You know why? Let me tell you something.
No, I understand what you're saying. Okay, look, this thing is there so many times. Even they even thought the receptionist thought I was a member of staff. As in, that's how often I went there. This was 2017.
This is 6 years later.
They did not give me. Eventually, what I did was, because so I got funding through a friend. The timeline for the project was ending, and I did not have access to any of
the people. Yeah.
Eventually, I had to just call some kids from private school, you know, and I brought them together, did the project, and I had printed like 1,500 books. I didn't see up to 100 children. The next year, what I had to do, because I tried going back to the district, they were still giving me stories. So I just decided, look, I will go to the schools. I went to them. I asked them, come, when are you finishing your exam? They told me. The schools were like, okay, take some of the students that you want. I just took 50 students. I asked them to register. And I took them to the local government. Local government gave me a hall. They actually gave me the hall to use. And so I just told the students, after your exams, come here. And the school principal was like, well, theoretically, they are no longer students once they finish their exams. That's how I was able to do it the next time. You know, as in the bureaucracy is just crazy. Even the program, I had a different program I was meant to do. Okay, I was able to do a program last year, a girls' conference, And so that, but it's because I had someone who was in the district. And then she helped me make sure that I got the approval. She then left the district. They changed the tutor general. I promised that I was going to come back for International Day of the Boy Child. I was coming back to do the project. And it didn't happen because my person was not there in the district. So
okay, so can we change the approach? Because you've been trying the approach of I want to do this program. So can you use another model where you are engaging with these stakeholders to understand what the challenges are with this particular category of students? Let it be more like research-based and as if you're trying to co-create the solution with them and see if they would listen, if they would, hear you out better than when you were going with an already developed program.
Because I did. That is actually what I did. I got to the district when I even went to the district with what I wanted to do. I went there to guidance and counseling. Guidance and counseling said, yes, this is our program. So when you write your letter, address it to us. I addressed it to them. The letter got missing.
That was what year?
That was in that 2017.
And this is 2023.
Yes, and the same thing happened in a different district.
You just have to keep at it. I'm sorry.
Because guidance, no, the thing is that there's so much, what's it called? Infighting between what's it called? Departments. So guidance and counseling says, this is our project. So when you write, address it to us. Co-curricular takes the project and says, it's an NGO, it should come to us.
Now you know where the problem is coming from. I think Kofi has something to share with you to help.
Even apart from that, so when my person was there, she told me the letter went missing. When she eventually found it, she then explains that what they do is they corner the letter. Because it's an NGO, they believe that I have a lot of money. So then they'll now wait. Yeah, so they'll now wait when it's almost time for my project, and then they'll now say I should pay some money before I can run it.
You're not paying a dime. Okay, I think Kofi has something to share with you. Kofi, go ahead.
Okay, I mean, I don't know, but then, well, I think it's a peculiar problem with like, African societies. But then one thing is that I may not be so much familiar with the Nigerian system,
context, yeah,
the governance and everything. However, what mostly I do and I advise people when they are working with people, quote unquote, the local or people at the lower end of the pyramid in terms of public governance structure. One thing you need to also look at is that the solution that you seek to provide, every solution, and especially with the NGO space, every solution that you seek to provide is a solution that every government is interested in, because in any case, it's supposed to have been provided. These are social services.
The government, yeah,
that are supposed to be provided by government. So most of the times, you then ask yourself, who, if this program becomes successful, who within the political class or the public service class the stakeholders, I mean, those part of it, who would it be much beneficial to? Who can point finger and say that I was part of this program and I made it and we made it a success? Someone somewhere is interested to pick your project and run it with it. So identify that person, and usually you can go to either the district. So let me use the Ghana setting. So for instance, if you are relating to public schools and you are looking at the local schools and everything, and when you go to a school and let's say the head the head of the school is trying to, make things difficult for you to. There are mostly district directors that manages all these schools within their district. Sometimes it is better to find a way there, so that if you are working it from the grassroots and it's not happening, go to the upper level, right? Get it from the top.
I understand what you're saying. The grassroots want me to come. It's the upper level that does not want me to go. That's what was happening. So this time, the project I was able to do in a very far locality was I rode on the back of another NGO, Teach for Nigeria, who has fellows there. And that's why I was able to do this project with them last year and this year. But going through district, the people on ground, they want you to come.
Okay, so what's the structure above the district? What's the structure above the district?
Then it means I have to go to Lagos State directly.
Have you gone there?
No. And the reason is I want to do, because, okay, I was trying to do test case and say, okay, will this thing work?
Okay.
I'm trying to understand.
You want to pilot? Okay.
Yes. Before you then go right to the top and say, I want to do this. If I don't even have the capacity to do it.
Okay, let's find another way. Since public schools are becoming problematic, why not look at those underserved private schools? We know there are some private schools that should not even exist, but they are still serving, the people at the lower economic strata of the country. People that feel that, oh, I don't want a public school, but this is what I can afford. But obviously you see that this school is underserved. I mean, they don't have facilities, they don't have quality teachers, and they are no different. The children, they are not even different from the public school. Find one or two schools like that to pilot the project from and learn from.
Yes, so that's what I did in my 2017, 2018. Those are the kinds of that I with.
Okay, because we just need to find a way around these barriers. And I also, because if at the district level, you're not being heard, I would just advise you, take it to the top and at the state level, and then find people within the ministry to have conversations with, to understand what the issues are. Because you met someone and a fellow told you the problem was school dropout rate, not necessarily career. Because truthfully, at that stage, GS3, the problem is for the immediate solution, or the immediate need that needs to be closed is for them to get to SS3, finish and complete their school certificate exam. Not necessarily a career path. When 2 years ago, 2021, we're having this conversation when I told you that's too far, because you cannot measure.
No, it's not too far. So I went to do the research, right? And now research is saying that career development learning is not that they're making decisions, but you're making them explore. You're making them understand issues. I'm not telling them make a decision on what career path that you're trying to choose. It's just the career development learning, the education, so because from the research also, they're saying at this life stage, it's called childhood career development learning, that it helps when they start to explore at a younger age, and it helps further down the line. But that there hasn't been that focus has not been so much on intentional career development learning for children, and that things need to change, and things have already started changing, that we're having more formal career development learning, that it helps also with their academics.
I was going there because you need to tie it.
Research, yes.
You need to tie it back. You need to tie it back to something that is more relevant for their stage.
Yes.
Which is what you just mentioned.
Yes.
Which is the academic performance.
Yes. So career development learning increases their motivation and helps with their academics. It helps them to flourish better in their academics. So the research is then saying that there needs to be more intentional career development programs, career development learning for young people. So the childhood career development learning, and the upper limit of the child is 14 years old, which is actually the age of GSS 3 students.
Okay, so Kofi is dropped an idea, a recommendation here that you need to build your social capital. And then one way for you to do that is to attend related government organized events and find a way to ask questions about what you seek to do and take the opportunity to pitch your solution. You see the work of nonprofits, it's heavily on social capital, heavily on relationships, because I remember I was working, I think this was in 2015, 2016. I was on a project that was funded by the British Council. It was a conflict mitigation project. The organization I was with then were holding a conflict alliance. We convened a conflict management alliance, and it was multi-stakeholder. We had people from the government, we had people from security agencies, other non-profits, and then communities. And so after that project, I went to another organization after some years, and then they had a similar project. This one was funded by German Council, the last organization before I went into consulting search. And then it was in the same state. And as a senior project officer, one of my tasks was to convene this multi-stakeholder platform. What did I do? I went back to all the old stakeholders that were on the multi-level alliance, the conflict mitigation alliance, and just phone calls. I just talked to them, look at it, it's a new project, it's a new funder. And before you knew it, the new architecture was set up because of social capital. And so it's something that you need to look into. Who knows someone that can talk to the person sitting down there to just so you can be heard. So you can be heard. So find out from your network, start asking questions, and even while setting up this security architecture, one of the things I learned was that a stakeholder can open the door to other high-level stakeholders that ordinarily you will not have access to. Through one of the members, we got scheduled meetings with this SSG of the state. We got scheduled meetings with the leader of the I think was the whip or something of the House of Assembly quickly. Meetings that we've been sending letters upon letters, nothing happened. Just a phone call, sis, I want to see you. And we're in their office, meeting held, resolutions made, and that was it. So if the formal letter, due process is not working, tap into relationships and social capital. Who do you know that knows someone that works at the Ministry of Education? And then talk to that person. Do you know the PAMSEC? Who can you call that can help me schedule a meeting with the PAMSEC? That's another strategy you now need to explore. If because Nigeria, the letters will lost, so it will not get to where it's supposed to go to. Working with public sector leaders is not easy. It needs to be on relationships. Okay, so I hope we're able to, move past these challenges and then flesh out the framework, how the project should run. I just want to advise that or recommend that there needs to be a balance. Because if I'm a funder and I'm looking at what you want to do, I'm wondering, okay, career development, what will be the immediate results that we can tap into? And then what you'll be saying will be stuff like, oh, the children are now maybe aware of career opportunities that they can. And I'm wondering, how does it maybe affect the academic performance or affect, it just needs to have tangible benefits even in the short term, except you're looking at an alternative funding strategy, not grants. Alternative funding strategy like brand partnerships. You want to partner with brands that have services or products that are focused on that particular demographic. Okay, but if it's grants, you go justify tire and they will not still understand, because even yet I'm yet to grasp it fully. So that's why you need to do much more work, do the research, bring out all the studies, and key stakeholder perspectives that will concretize why this program is needed. You're going to do much more work to justify it, okay? I know you're up to the task. All right, so we'll take the other Fumi from Super Parents Foundation, and then we'll close with Olamide. We'll take Olamide, and then I'll just, for 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, share my observation and then give directions for the focus for the third week. Okay, so Fumi number 2.
Good evening. Sorry for the
Hello,
other
yeah.
camera.
Okay.
Issues. Yes, I hope you know you now.
It's a little better, but it still has those, you know. Go ahead. I'll try to make out what you're trying to say. Or you can use the chat area. It's even worse. Use the chat area. It's not. This one is internet.
Yes.
So just use the chat area. I will read it out. I think this one should be an internet challenge.
Okay.
Yeah. So while you are typing, Olamide, let's hear you.
All right. Good evening, Coach. Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
All right. I think I've learned so much from Fumi and Kofi. Thanks, Kofi. Kofi sounds quite
Kofi is
serious.
a
Seems like he has been doing it well. Oh, I mean, like it. Sounds like it. Hello, Kofi. Thanks, Fumi, for sharing your thoughts. I've learned from you too. Coach, I want to say that much more than being in a noisy place, I'm actually quite ashamed of myself though, because
you did
I haven't
not
really
do the
done so
work.
much work. And so I was just sitting there to buy time. Hopefully somebody else will just come and run us down till 10 p.m. Then I'll say, oh, hey, well, time is gone. Maybe I'll do this next time. But
Thank God you're confessing.
yeah,
So
I'm
if
so
you try it
sorry.
next
I
week, I will know
actually
it's your
wasn't
MO.
I wasn't feeling very well, and I thought work would ease down for me, but it didn't, sadly. But finally, I've been able to settle all of that. So I've really done nothing. I haven't taken any of the courses like I promised you. I haven't done anything at all. So yeah, that's where I am right now, Coach.
This week.
Yeah,
I got.
Yeah, this week. The week is done actually, so I'm starting something on Sunday.
Sorry, next week.
Yes, I'm going to start
actually
on
Saturday or Sunday. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and the work is piling up. Like I was saying earlier, there will be no extensions, because this one ends for August. From September is $179. Early bird rate is $179. The full fee is $297, and it's going to take more work beyond the these sessions and then the reviews. We're also going to be curating funding opportunities that are targeted to the program areas and support the application process. And so they cannot be an extension into that one. Now, even people that repaid to join this session from June, or is it from June? Yeah, from July to join August. Some of them are still not here, and they've not even updated their proposals. That's not how the money will come. The money comes when you complete your proposal and you actually submit it to a funder, not that you attended a program. And so everything must work out. So between now and September, the last session is going to be for September 2nd, and it's not far away. I think it's just barely 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So let's just all try to get the pieces of the document together, so that by the end of the program, you can then identify a suitable funding opportunity, even if it's a small grant, and apply for it. Because that's the idea, is to take you all the way into the application process, so you can confidently engage with whatever kind of complexities the funder is going to throw at you when they do a call for proposal and all of that. So it's fine, no worries at all. Let me see if there's so I'm expecting that because I review on Fridays, so the document has to get to me latest that Friday morning. So I can use Friday afternoon and late in the evening to review. Mondays to Thursdays, I focus on work, dissertation, other clients that I serve, and then family and all of that. And then part of Friday, I dedicate a couple of hours. Like the last session, I was doing 10 hours straight to read and then comment and all of that on applications. So please, let's make the most out of this process so we can then engage in submitting proposals to funders requesting for money. Okay. So we have a couple of other people that are not here. Grace Aid Foundation is not here. Prince Otis is not here. Folake is not here. Even Ofon is not here. But like I said, there will be no extensions. Everything is going to, cap up September 2nd. And then I will move you all to the academy. Like Fumi, Save a Child, she's in the academy. And then I hope you're seeing our new people who have already started submitting proposals. So the mentorship continues, the coaching continues, but this, me reviewing the documents in this kind of framework, it's not going to be available except you want to pay for 1-hour clinic sessions and all of that. So please, let's get the work done. From 2nd of September, I'll move everybody to the academy, and then you also get support that that you need. Okay, so Fumi has dropped her comment. Just read it out. Fumi, you're working with Super Parents Foundation. We focus on children living with disabilities, their families, or widows and vulnerable children. I have some things to share and typing them out. Yeah, typing can be challenging. I will join with another device next week. Okay, yes. So next week, I'll give you enough time to share, because really I want to understand what you're doing. Every other person here also needs to understand so they can also support. Like you see, Kofi has really supported a lot the conversations that other participants have had. So I like the direction we're taking with the peer-to-peer coaching. So prepare next week, get a better device or internet connection so that you can really share the work you're doing. But more importantly, go through the training videos and start working on the sections of the proposal, because we're getting into week 3 and the focus for week 3 is an entirely different section. So if you've not done problem analysis, you've not done project design, you've not done the methods, how are you going to do the monitoring and evaluation or sustainability strategy? So your namesake Fumi is suggesting that you drop a voice note in the WhatsApp group. So in the classroom B, you can do a voice note of all that you want to share, and then we can support you in the group after the live session tonight. So I had 2 observations from my reviews. I think as we were having a conversation, I must have touched on some of them. But I want, as you approach or as you review what you have done in the problem analysis, I want you to pay attention to how you are discussing about the population you serve and also the data to support this population. So the sample proposal that I put in the toolkit, one of the things that helped was that the problem was ethno-religious conflict in the middle belt of Nigeria. And then they had a lot of media reportage that we could tap from in that analysis. So there was a mixture of what was happening in the specific locations, what was happening in those specific locations that were reported in the media, reported in newspapers, radio stations, TV stations, and also we looked at specific publications that also talked about the issues in the specific location. So in as much as you read that analysis and it looks like, oh, we were citing publications, those publications were talking about the specific conflict, the experiences of people in that location. So it was not a global indices, but it was looking at local data to back up our analysis of what the issues were. So you don't want to have your document looking like a literature review for a master's program or for a PhD program where you are reviewing WHO indices, and those things are to support your argument, to support your analysis, to support the information that you are bringing about the lived experiences, the local issues for the local people. The data is not in itself the core of what we want to see. The data is to support the story. Because if you look at the proposal writing, all the sections, they are telling a story. You're telling a story of the needs. You're telling a story of how you're going to solve it. You're telling a story of how life would be like after you have implemented your intervention. You're telling a story of how you're going to monitor, track, and ensure that the project is delivering on the expectations. You're telling a story of the other sources you're going to explore to fund the project or to sustain the project. It is storytelling. But we are saying in telling the story, you need to balance it or substantiate the story with data. The data is not the core. The data is to support. And then you must use relevant data. If you can find more local data, so if for instance, you have a development organization that has conducted a research in your specific district, it is more relevant than when you're talking about a global, a worldwide data. The worldwide data is too broad and far away. It doesn't really paint a clear or a specific picture of what's happening on the ground. So bring that balance in your analysis, and then please straight away build the project design. If you see for week 2, there are 2 training videos you need to look through. The first one, the case study, was a more simplified way of presenting your project. So looking at your project goal, your project objective, the outcome, straight to the outputs and activities. We want to see all of those things. But luckily for you, in this template, the funder has only asked for activities and objectives, and then the project methods and design. But you need to have all of those elements built out, because that is what you'll be discussing in the methods and design. What are the components of the project? So if we want to use Grantwriting Mastery, for instance, if this was a 3-month project or was a 6-month project, now Grantwriting Mastery has 3 key components: the access to training, the execution phase, the proposal development phase, and then the donor engagement phase. So why maybe I have the overall objective of the project, which is to enhance the proposal writing capacity or fundraising capacity of nonprofit leaders to drive financial sustainability for the organization's program. That's my objective. And then the key activities will be providing access to training resources, implementing life coaching, weekly life coaching sessions, reviewing proposals of participants, curating funding opportunities, and all those are activities. So I'll talk about my objective, talk about the activities, and then the methods and design looks at the architecture. Or if you are building a house, there's a drawing of the house. Everything that is being designed has every product you see, especially physical products, even services, has an architecture behind it, has a framework behind it. When they're building a house, there's a skeletal framework. There's a drawing of that house before it materialized. For this bottle, there was a drawing, the architecture of the bottle, looking at, okay, the base, how the body is going to be, the functionality of the straw, and all of that. That shows the working of the bottle, of that product. Same thing for my glasses frame. How would it work? Okay, the hand is going to be this dimension in order to support the weight of the frame, and blah, blah, blah. So beyond talking about the objective and the activities on one of the sections, the other section that talks about methods and design wants you to be more explicit with the architecture of the project. So if this Grantwriting Mastery was a project. The architecture is a 3-phased process. We have the access to training phase. We have the proposal development phase, proposal development and review phase, and then we have the donor engagement phase. And then that is the design, access to training, proposal development and review, donor engagement. And then I'll start explaining the access to training. What happens is where we have developed a toolkit of training workshops, templates for implementation, a sample funded proposal as added resources. We explain all of that and how we're onboarding participants to that toolkit. Then the proposal development and review phase is where we begin to talk about how participants are given sections of the proposal to work on a week-to-week basis. And as they write from the learnings, from the training workshops, a grant coach reviews and works with them, pointing out the gaps and giving recommendations on areas to strengthen the quality of the proposals developed, the second phase. And then the third phase, which is the donor engagement phase, is where funding opportunities will be curated for the participants, and then participants will be supported to apply and make submissions to grant funders. So this is the method, the design, or the architecture of the project. Meanwhile, before, you just saying this is the objective, and then these are the key activities, actions we're taking. But this objective and this action, this is the architecture behind it. This is the, I don't want to go into digital technology now and start explaining wireframes or the very design like a schematic drawing of the project, how the project will work. What are the components? The project is a system. What are the different components of this system, and how are they working all together to solve the problem for your participant? So that's why I told you earlier that week 2 is highly technical and you need to spend time to do it. Now, we are now approaching into week 3. So there's a lot of work that you have not done that needs to be covered up. And so for week 3, the focus is on monitoring and evaluation and sustainability strategy. So for those of you that have even watched the video, kudos to you. And so if you look at the stream, the training video stream is the 4th video on the stream. Whether you're watching it on Vimeo or you're watching it on YouTube, is the 4th video, monitoring and evaluation and sustainability strategy. So go through that training video and then work on the sections of your proposal that talked about monitoring and evaluation and sustainability strategy or sustainability plan. So for your M&E, under the objectives and the activities, we want to see the indicators. What are the KPIs? We want to see the indicators. We want to see your targets. You can't have a project when you don't know the specific number of people you're supporting and how you're going to measure change. So if I'm using Grantwriting Mastery as an example of a project, one of the indices I want to see is the proportion of participants who would successfully submit a complete funding application to a donor at least 3 weeks after the project. And so from the last batch, I already have 3 people who have successfully submitted a complete proposal to a funder. So I know the KPIs that I am tracking. And if the KPIs, if the feedback or the data that I'm collecting is not giving me meeting my expectation, I know there is something in the design I have to tweak. That is why from September, we are adding the donor engagement component. We're taking charge of it, donor engagement component, and then participants have to pay much more for the service. So the same thinking is what you need to bring into your project to know that when it's not working, you must have clarity on the change you want to see and how you are going to measure that change. One of the reasons why some proposals fail is these KPI gaps. So when you put a beautiful analysis and a nice project framework, When it comes to M&E and you cannot explain how you're going to measure change, what you cannot measure, you cannot manage. That's why a lot of proposals will also fail. So that's it for this session for week 2. Thank you to everyone who has shared your journey so far, and someone like Fumzile that have made a very strategic decision to go and engage with the population for 3 days and to really know what's going on from the perspective. It's really exciting to know, and I'm looking forward to the updated content that's going to come into your application forms. The next review I'm conducting is on Friday, so all you need to do, keeping up with covering up the gaps for the updates that need to happen for the problem analysis, the project design that needs to happen, sustainability strategy, and M&E that needs to be done. I would review them the whole of Friday. So please, let's get it done. So Friday, I can spend time to read through, give you guidance ahead of the session on Saturday night. So that's it for tonight. The recording will be up by tomorrow on the playlist. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. And if you have questions you need to ask, you have comments, the classroom is there for you to always ask and then get added support. So good night, everybody. Have a wonderful Sunday and have a wonderful week ahead.
Thank you so much, Coach.
All right.
Thank you so much, Coach. Good night, everyone.
Thank you,
everybody.
Coach. Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.